In this unit, we are continuing our study on the Gospel of Matthew, and we are just going to look at one verse, which is Matthew chapter 4 and verse 20. And they immediately dropped their nets and followed him. When I read the story of Andrew and John and Peter in this passage, I have questions. Andrew and Peter would be super saints if they heard Jesus once and then followed Jesus just like that. One of the dangers in the church is that we can create doctrines that are not true to human experience. The obvious example would be in the realm of divine healing. We can create a doctrine that Jesus can and will deliver us from all sickness. We can build off of the idea that Jesus can heal the sick, the blind, the leper, etc. The problem is that the last time I checked, there were no 200-year-old people around us. Jesus can heal and deliver people from sickness, but that does not mean people will not die. Read the story of Andrew and Peter in the same light. Is it reasonable to think that somebody heard Jesus once and left everything to follow him? The paradigm we often use in the evangelical church is that of instantaneous conversion. One moment I was in darkness and sin, and in the next moment I was born again. This has come to be the preferred way to present the faith experience. The truth is that the journey to faith often involves a number of steps. Now, some of these may be big and obvious, and some may not. This is why attempts to prepackage the gospel are of limited value. A person coming to faith at 4 years old at the end of a children's worship service has a different experience than the teen who has lived in an abusive home and makes a decision for Christ at a church camp. These two experiences are very different from the alcoholic who, as a young adult, threw away family and career as he descended into the horrors of alcoholism. And then at the age of 40, finds himself at a rescue mission at the end of the service, pouring out his heart at the altar and accepting Christ as Lord and Savior. If we take our verse in Matthew chapter 4 and verse 20 and turn to John chapter 1, 35 to 42, we get a fuller picture. Matthew and John are both giving a story without giving all the details. In the process, things get squeezed together and things get left out. What John tells us is Andrew was first a follower of John the Baptist. I picture Andrew as the more religious brother, the one who was actively seeking and searching. Peter was the pragmatist. He was trying to put food on the table. Andrew seemingly had a long build-up before finding Jesus. Peter, not as long. John the Baptist pointed Andrew to Jesus. In order to follow after John the Baptist, Andrew would have had to leave behind fishing. He probably heard Peter as he left, in Aramaic, of course. There goes that dreamer, leaving me to do the work. John tells us Andrew finds Jesus and then tells Peter of Jesus. This is where our verse in Matthew picks up the story. To fill in a bit more of the details of Peter's conversion, you will have to go to the opening verses of Luke chapter 5. We can put all three gospel accounts together to get a bigger picture of what happened in these brothers' lives. But there are still holes. You see, how we come to faith varies for each of us. It comes through steps big and small. Where the faith is similar to all is when we, like Peter and Andrew, leave our nets behind. It is a moment when we know our lives cannot be lived in the same way. It is when we step out in faith and follow Jesus. Until that moment, We are coming to Jesus and not following. So let us leave our nets behind this day and follow after Jesus.